With over 2 trillion visits each year, Google has become the world's largest search engine. Apart from being the largest search engine in the world, Google is one of the largest companies in the world with a market cap of $900 billion. That is a massive increase over the $400 billion in just 5 years prior, and Google looks poised to only go higher as the company expands into smart devices. But this behemoth of a corporation didn't start out at the top. In fact, it started in the dorm room of 2 master's students at Stanford University. After joining forces, the duo would slowly build Google, first using recycled parts of a cheap computer, and then moving on to buying office space several times over the years. Today, Google employs over 100,000 people, but for us to understand how YouTube got here, we must first go to the beginning. Sergey Mikhailovich Brin, known as Sergey Brin, was born on August 21st, 1973 in Moscow during the reign of the Soviet Union. His parents, both of which were graduates of the Moscow State University, lived in a 3-bedroom home in central Moscow. By 1977, Sergey Brin was already thinking about immigrating with his family to the US. One day, after returning from a mathematics conference in Poland, he informed his family that the time had come. By September 1978, Sergey's father applied for their exit visa. Unfortunately, that got him fired immediately. His mother's job was also affected, and that put the family in a very difficult position. His parents were now without a steady income, and so they had to take on temporary jobs while they waited, hoping their visa request wouldn't be denied, as was the case for so many Soviet Jews who tried to immigrate. It was a huge relief for their family when their visa request was granted in May 1979. After leaving the Soviet Union, Sergey's family lived in France while their father worked to secure a teaching position at the esteemed university. During their father's absence, the family was supported by the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. The family then moved to America on the 25th of October, 1979. Sergey Brin received elementary education from the Paint Branch Montessori School in Adelphi, Maryland. His father, who was also a professor of mathematics, helped him hone his mathematical skills by giving him further lessons and encouraging him. He received his high school education from ELEANOR Roosevelt High School in Maryland before proceeding to the University of Maryland, where he graduated with honors in computer science and mathematics. At the age of 19, he had already received his Bachelor of Computer Science. A year later, he interned at WOLFRAM research firm that is responsible for the development of Mathematica. Lawrence Edward Page, aka Larry Page, was born on the 26th of March 1973 in Lansing, Michigan. His father was a renowned computer scientist named Carl Victor Page Sr., who received his PhD in computer science from the University of Michigan. His mother, Gloria, was a computer programming instructor at Lyman Briggs College at the University of Michigan, and growing up, Larry was a bookworm who spent countless hours reading books and magazines. In Larry's own words, his room was usually a mess with computers, science, technology, popular science magazines all over the place. He was also a music aficionado who studied music composition and played lots of instruments. His parents once sent him to music summer camp at Interlochen in Michigan. Studying music inspired Larry's obsession with speed in computing. According to Larry, in some sense, I feel like music training led to the high-speed legacy of Google for me. In music, you're very cognizant of time. Time is like the primary thing that, if you think about it from a music point of view, if you're a percussionist, you hit something, it's gotta happen in milliseconds, fractions of a second. Page attended East Lansing High School and graduated in 1991. During the summer, he attended Interlochen Center for the Arts. He mostly played the saxophone and the flute. Page studied computer engineering at the University of Michigan, and he graduated with honors. He then proceeded to Stanford University to get his master's in computer science. Now at Stanford, Larry needed a dissertation theme. He thought about exploring the mathematical properties of the World Wide Web. His supervisor then advised him to follow the idea, and according to Larry, it was the best advice he had ever received. He wanted to figure out how to find which web pages were linked to a given page, and he considered the number and the nature of the backlinks to be very important to that given page. Larry's project was nicknamed Backrub, and soon enough his friend and fellow PhD student Sergey Brin joined the project. The pair then released their research paper, which was titled The Anatomy of a Large-Scale Hypertextual Web Search Engine. The paper became one of the most downloaded scientific papers of all time. It was during an orientation for new students at Stanford that Larry Page met Sergey Brin. At first, the duo seemed to disagree about everything, but with time, they began to warm up to each other, becoming intellectual soulmates in the process.
The idea was that you were not best friends. Were you?
I think
I read somewhere that you didn't like each other very much.
That's true, but we're pretty good friends nonetheless.
At the time, Sergey Brin's focus was data mining while Page was working on his research project. After discussing the idea, Sergey loved it and decided to join the project. In his own words, "I talked to lots of research groups around the school, and this was the most exciting project. Both because it tackled the web, which represents human knowledge, and because I liked Larry." Project Backrub's web crawler collected tons of backlink data. Now, Sergey and Larry wanted to convert all of the backlink data into a measure of importance for ranking web pages, and for that, they developed the PageRank algorithm. As soon as they joined forces, they immediately turned Larry's dormitory into a machine lab. They started removing spare parts from cheap computers to build the device they would use to connect this new search engine to Stanford's broadband campus network. After turning Larry's dormitory into their machine lab, they now needed an office coding center so they could test the new search engine designs on the web. For that, they turned to Sergey's dormitory. The project was going very fast, so fast that Stanford began to experience computing problems because of the duo's project. Page used his HTML coding skills to create simple, easy-to-use search engine pages for visitors and users. And soon enough, they needed more servers to process the number of queries Google was receiving. By August 1996, the initial version of Google, which was only available on Stanford University's website, was now available to the public. Google was fast becoming a huge success, and now it was time to expand the company. The first step was to seek funding. The duo started by soliciting financial assistance from friends, family, and even faculty members, and they gathered enough to buy some more servers and rent a garage in Menlo Park. Soon after, luck shined on them when Sun Microsystems co-founder sent a $100,000 check to Google Incorporated. Unfortunately, Google hadn't been incorporated yet, and so Google Incorporated technically didn't exist. For the next 2 weeks, they had to sort through paperwork so they could somehow deposit this money, and in 1998, Google Incorporated was officially incorporated. The initial domain name was Google, Googol, a number that consisted of 1 and 100 zeros, which signify the large amounts of data that the search engine was supposed to sort through. Once incorporated, Larry Page became the CEO while co-founder Brin became the company president. By 1999, Larry began to experiment with using smaller servers so that they could get more space out of the third-party warehouses the company used to house their servers. This helped Google become one of the fastest search engines at the time. After securing a $1 million loan, the team moved into a new office in Palo Alto by March 1999. Then in June 2000, Google had indexed 1 billion URLs. For those who don't understand, URL means Uniform Resource Locator. Indexing 1 billion URLs made Google one of the largest and broadest search engines at the time. There were over 1 billion pages on the internet, and Google was providing access to about 560 million fully indexed web pages and another 500 million partially indexed URLs. In 2000, Google also started selling advertisements associated with search keywords. Google used text-based ads so the page design would be simple, clean, and increase page loading speed. Sequoia Capital and Kleiner Perkins agreed to invest $50 million in Google, but before they would do that, they asked Larry Page to step down as CEO and bring a more experienced person. Page was reluctant at first, but after meeting with other tech CEOs like Steve Jobs and Andrew Grove, He agreed. Eric Schmidt was hired as a Google chairman in March 2001, but now he was asked to replace Larry Page. Schmidt led Google to its first IPO on the 20th of August 2004 and sold about 19 million shares at $85, and the company raised up to $23 billion. Despite being president of products, Larry Page spearheaded the acquisition of Android for $50 million in line with its dream of making Google more accessible by placing handheld computers in the hands of customers. Google seemed destined for only continuous growth, and soon they had outgrown their office and had to lease a building complex in Mountain View. Google has used the building complex ever since, and now the complex is famously known as GOOGLEPLEX. By 2006, Google bought the building complex for $319 million. Over the next decade, Google would continuously rise to become one of the most valuable internet companies. Google included new products like Google Chrome, Gmail, Google News, Google Earth, etc. They also purchased YouTube in 2006, and that increased its dominance in the internet search industry. Today, Google owns 92% of the worldwide search engine market, while the remaining 8% is split up among 5 other search engine companies. What Larry Page and Sergey Brin have done with Google shows us what can be achieved when hard work and excellence are combined to meet market demand. Google started out in a relatively quiet era for internet companies, and while many tech companies failed after the dot-com bubble, Google found a way to stay relevant and did it by continuously meeting customer demands with excellence. When asked to share some tips about how Google remained successful through all of these years, Larry Page responded, "You don't need to have a 100-person company to develop an idea. Always deliver more than expected." When asked what motivated them to get up every day, Larry responded, "If you're changing the world, you're working on important things. You're excited to get up in the morning." If you want to hear more inspiring stories about people whose drive and determination led them to change the world, then make sure you subscribe to this channel and leave a like and a comment down below.